Good morning, everybody. What we want to focus on today is a lesson in reality and where we're going with education and how Governor Rounds sells reality in the state of South Dakota. The reality is that Governor Mike Rounds, is starving South Dakota's education system. He's starving our state because he believes that education is something that can be done on the cheap. Rounds has failed our educators, he's failed our students, and he's failed really the taxpayers and the citizens of South Dakota over the past 4 years. Mike Rounds is now failing another new generation of South Dakotans. We're one of a handful of states that have no preschool education, no preschool programs. And the reality is we will now send our students into the education system a year behind, a full year behind young people who will compete with them in the workplace for jobs and for opportunity. Now, Governor Mike Rounds will smile and tell you he's funding education at a higher rate than ever. But Mike Rounds has failed South Dakota's elementary students. The reality is that we're comfortable funding education at the lowest per student rate in our entire region, $700 to $1,200 below every surrounding state. Mike Rounds also fails South Dakota's college students. We received an F for affordability in higher education in South Dakota. But Mike Rounds will tell you he's creating more scholarships than ever. The reality is Mike Rounds funds our state scholarships at 1/25th of the rate that Minnesota accomplishes and 1/15th of the rate that Iowa does. Young people leave South Dakota. They leave for better opportunities elsewhere because we are a low-wage state and because we do not fund education. Mike Rounds has also failed South Dakota teachers. South Dakota teachers continue to be paid 51st in the nation, paid at the lowest rate in the union, a lower rate than every single state. But Mike will smile and praise teachers in one breath year after year, but he has done nothing to make sure they receive a competitive professional salary. South Dakota teachers work hard. They develop our greatest natural resource, our children. And yet, we neglect funding, we neglect teacher pay, and we neglect preschool. We're failing our South Dakota children. Now, the reality is that Mike Rounds has actually divided taxpayers against educators. He's divided school districts against taxpayers. He's divided large school districts against rural school districts, against small school districts. He's divided the legislature against funding scholarship programs to meet the true need in our universities. And he's ignored the crying need for preschool programs in South Dakota. Presently, there are 60 school districts suing the state of South Dakota because Mike Rounds will not live up to his constitutional obligation to fund education in South Dakota. Most folks tell me that we can't afford more lawsuits, that we can't afford another 4 years of this type of educational approach by the governor of South Dakota. The reality actually is that the buck has to stop on the governor's desk. And let me repeat that. The buck has to stop on the governor's desk in South Dakota. The Billion administration has promised to raise teacher pay out of the basement. And how do we do it? We'll talk about that in a moment. But real leadership starts at the top. And Mike Rounds presently receives a salary that ranks him 36th or 37th as the best governor's salary in the nation. I find it irresponsible that the governor of a state with the nation's lowest teacher pay, year after year, should be paid in the mid-range of governors, year after year. It's time for leadership, and I think we need to take responsibility. Therefore, what we plan to do is cut the governor's pay to dead last among governors in our nation. Until our teachers move up from dead last, until our teachers move up from 51st in the nation, the governor in South Dakota will also be paid 51st in the nation. When the teachers move up, the governor can move up. Then we'll all move up perhaps together. Our governor thinks 36th or 37th and his pay is adequate. But at the same time, he pays our teachers 51st in the nation. That's the reality. Mike Rounds thinks he's done enough. We don't feel he's done enough. Now let's talk about how we'll pull ourselves out of this educational mess, this educational underfunding the Governor Rounds has gotten us into. Let's talk about what a governor will do and how a governor will lead. First of all, one of the things we plan to do is establish a renewable fuel standard for the entire state. South Dakota can be an energy powerhouse for the future, but not with this present administration, not with Governor Mike Rounds. We need a new path upon which we can capitalize on South Dakota's #1 industry, agriculture, produce new wealth with energy, and with the right leadership, there's no reason why South Dakota can't be a leader as an energy-rich state. Our plan for South Dakota renewable fuel standards will create tremendous growth in the energy industry. Mike Rounds incidentally missed that vote when he voted against ethanol support in the mid-1990s as a senator. He does the minimum to support wind energy and also in biofuels, an industry that's full of potential. I won't. As we grow a dynamic economy around renewable energy, I will make sure new revenues we produce from that energy will be dedicated to support education. And that will produce relief for the property taxpayers of South Dakota. Remember taxpayers 20 years ago? Taxpayers 20 years ago actually thought that the video lottery money would go to education. It didn't. It got dumped into the general fund to make government bigger. To make government bigger by 6%, 7%, or 8% in the last year. This time we're going to build our state's economy using our greatest strength, agriculture. We're going to build it with energy, and we're going to use the revenues from that new wealth to meet the real needs in South Dakota, education and education for our children. Now that's a bold vision, but change is not about doing things the way things were done in the past. Change must take place. Doing things the way we did in the past simply guarantees the same result year after year. What we need and what we expect is excellence, and we expect results, and we expect leadership. The buck will stop on my desk. I'm going to hold myself accountable to my pledges. I'll start with cutting my pay to 51st in the nation. We'll focus on teachers' pay. I'm going to hold state government accountable, and then we'll take South Dakota in a new direction. That's my pledge today to you. Thank you.